Yes. So anyway, that was the purpose of the people who were, and they're called the epsilons. The epsilons are the ones with the least amount of intelligence. Now, one of the things that happens at this hatchery is that they condition the embryos, which means that from the time the egg and the sperm meet, they start conditioning them to belong to a certain class or caste and to perform a certain type of jobs, okay? And they also, the conditioning doesn't just stop when they're embryos, it continues throughout childhood and even in adulthood. For instance, I think it's in chapter 2 where they mention, let me just turn my paper, where they mention the Delta babies. They condition the Delta babies to hate books and to hate nature. Now, the Delta babies are a little more intelligent than the Epsilons. And also, the people in different castes wear different colors. So the Deltas wear khaki. And they are conditioned from the time they are babies to hate books and hate nature. And the way they do this is, it sounds really cruel, but I want you to make a comparison between what sounds like a crazy narrative and reality. So what they do is that they bring the children out into a big playroom and they give them books and with pictures of trees and flowers and really pretty things, right? And so the kids have these books and all the kids go crawling towards the book and they pick up the books and you're like, oh, the cute books. And then suddenly the books start shocking them and they make this horrendous noise and the kids are screaming and on the floor and shaking. And that's what they do to get kids to hate books and nature. So my question to you is this: what would be the purpose of having a group of people who hate nature and hate books? What's the purpose? Come on, talk to me. What's the purpose of having a group of people in society who hate nature and hate books? What happens when people hate nature?
They don't get interested maybe in their environment, so they just don't care.
Okay, good.
They destroy it.
What?
They destroy nature.
Yes.
Destroy nature.
Yes, they destroy it. They don't care. They're about the environment. And when people hate nature, are they going to go to nature? Are they going to go to spend time in the mountains or to look at gardens and stuff like that? Of course not. Of course not. And the reason they did this is because they said that when people love nature, they can't make money off them, because they're just going to get in their cars and go to nature and have a good time, and they're not using or buying any products and not consuming any products. So if they teach them from early to hate nature, they're going to be people who are consumers who buy stuff instead of just going to nature to feel happy and to heal themselves. Okay? Now, it sounds like a very weird and random idea, but I need you to start connecting that to these days. Okay, and there's also the group called the Gammas, and the Gammas are supposed to be stupid and they wear green, and the Alphas who wear gray. But then there's another group of babies that they're conditioning, which are supposed to be the smartest of all. And I'm going to read to you every night, these babies, when they go to sleep, they have to fall asleep listening to a recording, okay? And this recording is inside their pillows. And this is what the recording tells them. I forgot to mark the page. Let me find that. This is what the recording says. It says, Alpha children wear gray. They work much harder than we do because they're so frightfully clever. I'm really awfully glad I'm a beta because I don't work so hard. And then we are much better than the Gammas and Deltas. Gammas are stupid. They all wear green. And Delta children wear khaki. Oh no, I don't want to play with Delta children, and Epsilons are still worse. They're too stupid, and it goes on and on. And this is the recording that the children have to listen to before they go to bed. What would be the purpose of this?
Brainwash them.
Brainwash them to do what? Because this is the
To hate.
data.
No, to feel superior to the other babies that are in the laboratory.
And what could be the purpose of that? What's the point of making them feel superior?
That's actually dividing them into groups.
What else? Okay, notice.
Also,
Go ahead. Who's talking?
me, Adrian. So that's that the point of it is like so they don't feel empathy towards the other groups, so they can, for example, if one of the other children has issues, the smart guys just like, oh no, they're just dumb. They don't deserve to be helped or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that would be like the point of it, to disassociate them and looking at them as equals. They are better off without them.
Yeah.
Like the point.
Okay, so we don't know of anybody who currently has their kid listening to anything that sounds like this while they're babies, this whole conditioning. But does it still exist? Is this narrative still going on? Let me read it to you again. Maybe not using the words alpha, beta, and epsilon. It says, alpha children were great. They work much harder than we do because they're so frightfully clever. I'm really awfully glad I'm a beta because I don't work so hard. And then we are much better than the gammas and deltas. Gammas are stupid. They all wear green, and delta children wear khaki. Oh no, I don't want to play with delta children, and epsilons are still worse. Blah, 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 blah. We might not have kids walking around with recordings in their, sleeping with recordings in their pillows telling them this, but does this type of narrative still exist in society? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes, it does. And how does it show up?
Government.
Tell me more, people. Don't we all have these preconceived ideas about different people, different races? Yes, we do. What is the general idea we have? Don't tell me, because we're not going to get into a screen fight here. Well, what are the general ideas that we have about Asians, about blacks, about indigenous, about whites, about rich people, about smart people, about people who wear glasses, about women, about fat women, about fat men, about police officers, about bus drivers, about taxi drivers? Don't we all have certain ideas about these groups of people? Yes, we do. Okay, so even though nobody put a recording in a pillow, under our pillow, telling us these things, we still have them. Where did they come from? The ether, they just floated down on us? Where did they come from?
I mean, from the people we grew up with and the system.
The people, the system, there's more. There's more places. Where else?
I just think that some of them come from Hollywood and movies. And no one really ideas.
So we have the people in our families, we have from the system, we have from Hollywood. Where else did they come from? A lot.
Maybe the news. I don't know.
Maybe the news. Oh, you're missing two of the most important ones, people. We've talked about this. Two.
Parents.
I didn't hear you. What was that?
Parents.
Or parents, yes. But the two big important institutions where a lot of our preconceived ideas come from are?
Are you saying school?
School and? School and?
Government?
It starts with C. Start with the letter C.
Church.
Yes, school and church. So we get it from Hollywood, we get it from the news, we get it from school, church, family, and government, and many other places. All of these preconceived ideas that make us go through life like this. Because we have this idea of how Asians are, or how people from Colón are, or how people from Chiriquí are, and we don't really question those ideas. We just believe them because somebody said it, so it's gotta be true. And when we behave, when we live like that, we limit ourselves. We limit ourselves because we are not able to have an open mind and to accept people as individuals. One of the things that I always tell my friends, yes, I'm from Colón, yes, Cédula 3, yes, I'm Black. I hate coconut. I don't eat rice with coconut. I don't have long fingernails with weird designs on them. My hair is an afro. I don't appreciate when people say, ay, que todas las mujeres de Colón tienen las uñas largas. No, we don't. Ay, que todas las mujeres de Colón. No. But because we are so accustomed to these little stereotypes, we don't get to know people as they truly are because we think that the stereotype is correct. Okay, so this was programmed into these kids with the idea to create these kind of separations in society. Okay, let me read for you why the love of nature was programmed into the lower classes. It says, a love of nature keeps no factories busy. So it was decided to abolish the love of nature at any rate among the lower classes, to abolish the love of nature, but not the tendency to use transportation. Now, how does that make sense? We don't want you to love nature, but we want you to use transportation. Why? Because if you use the transportation, you're going to move all over the place and somebody's going to get money from it. But if you love nature, you might just go to nature and not spend any money and enjoy yourself. Okay, so people, talk to me about the rivers in Panama. Remember, we're talking about hatred of nature. Talk to me about the rivers in Panama. And every single year, when we go through the very same thing, that when the rain starts, everywhere floods because there's garbage in the rivers. How did the garbage get into the rivers? No, seriously, answer me. How did the garbage, have you ever seen these floods on TV or in real life? There's like refrigerators, car doors, tires, sofas, weird stuff that shouldn't be in a river. In fact, when I walk by in the mornings, there is a whole door stuck inside the river. Who threw those things there? Really, I need you to answer.
People.
Very cute. People, what kind of people?
People that see the rivers as garbage.
What kind of people would see rivers as the garbage dump?
The people that don't like the nature.
And what kind of people would not nature and throw garbage in the river? Think. Come on, let's be brutally honest. Let's talk classes. High classes, low classes. Who would be more likely to throw their old refrigerator in the river? Or the door of their wrecked up car?
The low class.
So even though this book was written in 1930 something, or I don't even remember when it was written, I should check that out. 1932, there you go. Even though this book was written in 1932 and everybody thought this guy was crazy, somehow those crazy ideas are still valid in 2021. And nobody programmed these people in a hatchery, but they're still throwing their garbage in the river, which just goes to prove that they hate nature. Go to the beach on a Sunday. People who love the beach, go to the beach Sunday around 4 or 5 o'clock when people are going back home. What do you see? Garbage. A whole lot of garbage. A lot. The people who love the beach. If you really love the beach, would you leave garbage there? No. No. So then, is it possible that in 1932, when these things were not happening, Mr. Huxley saw something that led him to believe that, hey, this is the direction the future is going? Or was he just totally crazy? He was totally crazy? Okay. So that's the first 3 chapters of this book. Let me see if I mark anything else before we go into the questions that I asked you. Okay, there's something interesting. The reason why they started allegedly using, they call it hypnopedia, to put in these recordings for kids when they go to sleep, is that allegedly there's a story of this little boy, little Ruben. Oh yes, I have something else I need to mention. Little Ruben, who who spoke Polish, and he didn't speak any English. But one day, apparently, his parents left the radio on, and he fell asleep. And then the following morning, he woke up, and listening to the radio, he was able to give an entire discourse in English. And they were like, wow, this means that this is something that would actually work. Okay, now, when the director of the hatchery is telling this to the boys who are on the field trip, he asked them, does anybody know what Polish is? And their answer is yes, it's a dead language, one of the dead languages. Okay. And then he asked them, does anybody know what parents are? And this is the most important part. I know how I almost skipped it. What is a parent? And they immediately start blushing because they're like, ooh, ew, we don't talk about parents anymore. Ooh, what's that thing? And it so happened that by creating the hatchery, parents were no longer necessary. So mom and dad were no longer necessary, and it was seen as immoral, something that savages used to do, have parents. We are a modern society, we no longer have parents. So here it says, human beings used to be, he hesitated and he started blushing. Well, they used to be viviparous. And then he started trying to explain that when the babies were decanted, and they told him, no, babies were born, well, they had these 2 people, like a woman and a man, who were in charge of them, and they were their parents. Why do you think in this society parenting was abolished?
They were no longer needed.
Why?
Everyone was listening to these recordings that they were getting kind of educated and getting independent by themselves. So they no longer need parents because they were teaching themselves.
So all of the stuff that a parent is supposed to teach you, they were already programming it into the person. Okay, and actually the word mother was a bad word. Okay, it was unpleasant. They said unpleasant facts of things that happened before. So mothers were a bad word. You couldn't say the word mother because that was old. It's kind of like nowadays there are things that you can't say because it's not politically correct. Well, in that society, the word mother or parents were not correct. Okay, so let's go to our questions, the 3 questions I asked you at the beginning. What is being described in this book is total organization of a society. Okay, my question was, what do you understand by total organization in a society? So what do you understand by it based on what I explained from the first 3 chapters of Brave New World? What is total organization of a society? Who wants to take that? You're all going to answer, you know. So I'm going to start calling names in a few seconds. 9, 8, 7. Thank you. Go ahead.
I think that, as you explained, total organization in society, it's when government controls everything. The classes, how do you think about different classes, about persons of different races, and they just control your mind, your actions, what you like, what you don't. That for me is total organization in society. They have all like pre-order. I don't know how to say it, but it's like all predefined everything.
Great, that's very good. Anybody else? Anybody else wants to add to that? Total organization of society? Okay, so is this a good thing or a bad thing?
For me, it sounds like yeah, total order or control of what goes on in society.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So is this a good thing or a bad thing? Does it have advantages?
Yes, it does, but not for everyone.
So give me an idea of what would be an advantage. Hello?
Okay, I think it does have advantages, but just for the ruling class or the ones that are better off. Because it's a similar comparison to having slaves. Because like, does having slaves have an advantage? Yeah, sure it does. Because you have a free workforce, but that only benefits the people that own the slave. The slaves are the ones suffering and doing the work without getting paid. So I think it does have benefits, but it's a weird way of seeing it because some people suffer because of what you want to do.
Yeah. So do you think that society is moving in that direction? Think about currently, stuff that's going on. Focus on 2020, 2021. Okay, the last few years, your experience as a human on your way to adulthood. Do you think that society is somehow moving towards this total organization thing?
Yes.
Tell me more.
I think it's already happening. Because, you know, the richest men on earth, they are already taking advantage of the working class and bringing children from countries in Africa for work for them. And it's already happened.
Anybody else wants to add to that?
I think it's also already happening because where you mentioned that some of the classes were actually like hate others or feel like discriminated, it also happens. Like if you come from a specific place in Panama or a problematic place in Panama, people already look at you like suspicious or something like that. They already like judge you before meeting a person.
Anybody else? No? Let's go to question number 2 then. What is freedom? Do we have it? Should I call names?
For me, freedom is like to have the power to do what I consider without restriction. Pronounce restricciones.
Retribuciones, retribution.
No, restricciones.
Restrictions.
Restriction. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else has a definition of freedom?
I think that freedom is when we do the things that we want. And I think that we don't have that because society have the rules that we have to do.
Okay. One more person. What's freedom? Do we have it?
For me, it is like when you are the one that makes your own decisions. Because I don't think it is too much like I can do whatever I want, because if you think like killing someone is good, that's not good. So, I don't know if I explained myself.
Yeah, you did. Okay, so anybody else? Freedom?
Teacher, I think that freedom it's also like the power of developing as an individual by yourself, not by the rules that society tells you that you need to follow.
Okay. Good stuff. So, do we have it? One person said no. What about the rest of you? Do we have it? Are there different types of freedom, though?
We don't have freedom.
We don't have it. Do you think?
Yeah, there are different types of freedom, like financial freedom, like you can buy anything you want, you can eat whatever you want, or maybe you cannot, so you don't have that freedom because you don't have any money. So it's different kinds of freedom. You can also have like decide what you want to do. But I don't know.
Okay.
I think that you have a bigger restriction of freedom. Like you have the freedom of, you can choose what affects you, and you can choose things you want to do until your status in society, because money and all those things like make it forms a limit and what you do. But at before that certain level, you have a range of freedom.
Okay. So then there's like physical freedom, like living in society, and then there's mental freedom. Is that what you're saying? Okay, so do we have mental freedom, like the freedom to choose our own beliefs? Do we have that?
Yes, but no.
Explain that, Janice.
Some people.
Oh my goodness, Eduardo Soto. Yes. Yes, Janice, what do you mean by yes or no? Yes and no.
I mean, as a teenager, I can have freedom with my beliefs because maybe, parents are the problem. Or, I don't know, I don't think we have freedom in any type of freedom. We don't have freedom.
I think that depends on the family that you were raised, because in my case, I think that I have my freedom to choose what I want to believe. And I choose to believe that I'm Christian, but I believe in Jesus. And there are many people, we cannot say that we have freedom, all we have freedom because we don't are in the same shoes that the other person. I don't know if I explain myself.
You did. So it all depends on, okay, so for instance, Amir just mentioned that he decided to choose to believe that he's a Christian and believe in Jesus. And that's wonderful. Amir, so my question to you, and this is just picking your brain. If you got up tomorrow and told your parents, I'm an atheist, how would they react? Would they still give you that freedom?
Well, they will be like in shock, because all my life I was Christian in that case. But I think that we talk, and I think that we'll accept in somehow.
Okay.
Yes, they don't will support my choice, but they still love me. I don't know if okay.
I think the Christianity here in Panama is teach since the first day you are alive. Like the first thing I remember of my religion is being a Christian. I didn't have any type of they didn't make me choose or whatever. I was a Christian since I was born.
Well, but it's different because you have like in una etapa
stage,
a stage that you have to make the decision to, if you want to Jesus enter into your life. It's like when you have to accept him. It's not depending on your parents. Yes, they introduce you to be Christian, but you have like that moment that you are in a, for example, in an event about renuevo, and you decide to choose to believe and live for Jesus. I don't know, because we call this like accept Jesus in your heart. Yeah, and that is your own decision. If you don't want, you don't do it.
I got it. Okay, so people who wanted to talk?
It was me, but I think it was a random question. But what about people that doesn't believe in God, but they believe, I don't know, in Buddha, because they are like, there's no God.
They choose to believe in Buddha. I choose to believe in Jesus. I have to respect their decision. They have to respect my decision.
Yeah, from the time you are born, there are a lot of decisions that have been made for you. Okay, somebody decides your name, somebody decides your nationality, somebody decides your religion, somebody decides where you're going to live. So a lot of decisions are made for you just when you popped into the world. How many of those decisions do you get to change is up to everybody. I get Amir's point. He believes that he was introduced to Christianity, but there came a moment where he decided to be a Christian. Okay? And that's beautiful. He did not simply depend on the decision that was made for him to be the thing that he chooses for the rest of his life. That's precisely what we're talking about. I remember once I asked you, are you the thinker of your own thoughts? Or are you just repeating what other people are telling you? You have to get to the point where you can decide, hey, you introduced me to this, I don't believe this thing anymore, I'm out. And feel completely free to do that. And a lot of us are not free to make that decision because we're going to be criticized, we're going to be rejected, we're going to be, I don't know, in some
pressure.
What?
Family pressure.
Yes. I can tell you from personal experience. I used to belong to a certain Christian denomination. And as an adult, I was like, no, this is foolishness. I'm out of here. And from one minute to the next, I lost all my friends. I lost contact with most of my family. People just hated me. People told me I was going to die. I was going to burn in hell. In fact, when my dad died and at his funeral, people were preaching like, if you don't come back, you're going to burn in hell and never see your father again. And nonsense like that. And it happens a lot. So sometimes we feel like we're free. We're not really free. We're just choosing what was already chosen for us. Okay? Because if you choose differently, it's so much pressure and so much rejection that most people can't handle it. Do you see what I'm saying? And it doesn't only mean religion. It applies to many different things, even to the type of friends that you have, the car that you drive, the place you choose to live. When I decided to move from Parque Lefebvre to over here, people were like, are you crazy? Why are you going to do that? People are always going to be questioning your decisions. But what gives you freedom is when you choose to stick to what you chose and not just change your mind because somebody else doesn't like what you're choosing. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay? That's when you exercise your real freedom. When you know that people are not going to like you because you moved or you married somebody they didn't like or you cut your hair in a way they didn't like and you still stick to your decision. So the third question is, and we're going to finish soon, death control versus birth control. In this society, old age was abolished. You were not supposed to grow old. So they did everything possible for people to not grow old. And it was seen as something bad. Growing old was seen as horror, like, so traumatic. And there's a story within the story of a woman who escaped and had a baby and grew old, and it was unacceptable. So let's talk a little bit about death control. What do you understand by death control? Natalie, you're very quiet today. I love to hear your voice. Tell me, what's death control? What do you understand by death control? We know what birth control is, right? Everybody knows what birth control is. I hope you do because you're old. Okay, so what's death control?
When you want to die.
When you want to die. How did you get there? Okay, so death control is when you want to die. Tell me more, Janice.
Maybe something from a diagnosis. I mean, you're not capable of still alive. Like you can move, you can walk, and you just feel useless. So why can I just die?
Oh, you're talking about euthanasia, mercy killing. Okay, I get that. Okay, people, so I'm going to just leave this question for you to think about. Please read the book. It starts really dull, but it gets really good, and it's going to make you think a lot, particularly about things that we see in society that we can't really explain, and then we're like, oh, somebody programmed you with that ridiculous idea. who did this to you. Okay, so we're going to end here. Remember the first 3 chapters for module 1. The book is actually short. It has a whole lot of big words. Just skip over them and just get to the juice of it. Do you have any questions? No questions? Okay, people, then see you next time. Bye-bye.